If you're 30 years old right now, you have exactly 240 monthly paychecks before you turn 50. And here's how you're going to make sure you never need another one after that. Look, I get it. When you're 30, retirement feels like somebody else's problem, and it is so far down the road, people don't worry about it. But here's what nobody tells you. The difference between becoming financially free at 50 or working to your 70 is not how much money you make. It's what you're going to do over these next 20 years between 30 and 50, okay? I'm 55 years old, and I work because I like working, not because I need the money. And honestly, I hate the word retirement because for me, it's not about retiring, it's about becoming financially free, which allows you to make all kinds of different decisions, okay? And I accomplished this not because I was special or smarter than anyone else. It was because I followed a system that really teaches how to become financially free, okay? So most 30 years olds are told, max out your 401k and hope the market's going to give you 7 to 10% returns over the next 40 years. And that does help, but it is not a freedom plan. That's a work long-term until you're going to be in your 60s or 70s because you have to work plan. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't invest in your 401k because you absolutely should, especially if your company offers a match and that is free money. But what if I showed you exactly how someone making $75,000 a year at 30 could walk away from that mandatory work by the time they're 50? And this is no lottery tickets, no crypto gambling, no inheritance required. And I just want you to know, I've coached dozens of professionals through this exact blueprint. Some started with less money than you have right now. And here's the big difference. They understood that early financial freedom is not about sacrifice. It's about strategy. And that's where we want to get. So over the next few minutes, what I want to do is I want to give you the complete roadmap, the income milestones that you're going to need to hit, and the investment vehicles that actually matter for you, and why owning rental property matters more than your 401k balance, and the 3 lifestyle shifts that make the math work without living like a monk, okay? So first things first, the income reality check. Let's start with the number nobody wants to say out loud, okay? So to become financially free at 50, you're likely going to need somewhere between $1.2 and $2 million, depending on what lifestyle you're going to want to live. I know for a lot of people, you're going to even want more money than that. And I know those numbers sometimes, they sound impossible, but trust me, it is not. And here is the breakdown. So if you're 30 and you're making, let's say, $75,000 a year, here are the income targets that I think you need to aim for, okay? So by 35, you want to be making 95 grand a year. By 40, you want to be making at least 120 grand a year. And by 45, you want to be trying to make at least $150,000 or more. And here's where people mess this up, okay? They think that means slowly climbing the corporate ladder for 20 plus years at the same company forever. And that is completely wrong, okay? This is going to sound a little ruthless, but the fastest path to getting to those income numbers is usually going to be some sort of strategic job hopping every 3 to 4 years. And if you combine that with one scalable skill that you can develop on the side, then you are going to be able to win at this game, okay? So I've seen teachers hit these numbers by mastering instructional design. I've seen accountants win by learning data visualization. I've seen marketing managers build email systems for small businesses. And if you can just pick one high-value skill, spend 90 minutes a week getting better and better and better at that, over time, you're going to watch your income trajectory go up and up and up. And that's where we go into the second point, which is the investment strategy. And this is what actually is going to work for you, okay? So let's talk about where this extra money is going to go. So forget that standard 60-40 stock bond split that your advisor or many advisors are going to recommend. That strategy may be fine for some people, but it's not designed to help most people become financially free as young as possible. And remember, these are just my opinions. You can do your own research. You can decide what your own goals are going to be. But here's the type of allocation I think that I would recommend for you. And I'm going to recommend these to my kids as they get a little bit older. But if you're between ages 30 and 35, I think you need to be 70% stocks, 20% a real estate fund like a REIT, and maybe have 10% cash reserves. And then as you get from 35 to 40, I would go more 50% stocks, 40% in real estate, and actually start investing in some, commercial or residential real estate, and then have 10% in bonds. And then once you're between 40 and 50, then you're even going to allocate less. It's going to be 30% for stocks, 60% in real estate, and then 10% can be in all sorts of alternative investments, which we can talk about in another video another day. But here's the key to all of this. You're not just blindly buying random funds. You want simple, efficient vehicles that actually serve a purpose, okay? So to me, what I would say to do is, one, you want a total market index fund for tax efficiency. You're going to want a second fund that's international exposure for diversification and some currency hedging. And then until you can actually afford real estate, you want to be in some REITs, which is real estate investment trust investment. And that way you can be in the real estate game without actually owning real estate yet, okay? So if you can start investing $1,500 a month by the time you're age 30, and by the time you're age 35, you should be closer to $2,500 a month. And honestly, by the time you're 40 and above, I would hope that you can start pushing towards $4,000 a month. This is where you can make this game accelerate really quickly. And I know for a lot of people, that's going to sound super aggressive. Yes, but it becomes more and more realistic when you just start thinking about what I described and how your income will grow and how much taxes you'll pay if you don't do these things. So it's something that you should really look into and see how much you can sacrifice in some other areas in order to really make this game work. And so now this leads us into point number 3, which is your first rental starts to change everything. So if you're in your 30s and you can make this one move, it will start to accelerate everything. And that is going out and buying your first rental property. And again, not in California, not in New York, and not in a market where you might live that is very expensive, that makes sense, that doesn't make sense for you. You need to buy in a place where it cash flows right away. So we're talking about markets like Cincinnati, Kansas City, Birmingham, Alabama, where you could buy a house for $150,000 or $200,000, and you can still rent it for $1,500 a month or even up to $2,000 a month. I mean, I sell real estate here in Northern Nevada, and I actually started buying homes in other parts of the country, which for me, I bought them in Indiana, and it has worked out really well for me. So if you're thinking about doing those things, reach out to me. I can get you some good connections. But here's what happens, okay? A $30,000 payment could start generating roughly maybe $300 a month. You're also going to start to earn some money on the principal pay down, maybe another $200 to $400 a month. And if anywhere now $500, $600, $700 a month is being put into that plan without even worrying about appreciation of the property or some of the other ways, tax efficiencies that you're starting to make money. So by the time you're 40, maybe you can own 3 rentals. By the time you're 45, maybe you can own 5 rentals. By the time you're 50, maybe those 5 properties that you're starting to own are worth $1 million, $1.2 million. Maybe you have $600,000 in equity and they're generating $5,000 a month. And it's mostly passive income because you have a property manager in a different part of the country handling all that stuff. And here's the best part. You're using the bank's money or a good chunk of the bank's money to help you build real wealth. And again, many of your coworkers are going to be bragging about their 401k balances. And again, you should do those. But I think buying actual assets that produce actual income is a major factor in really being able to get financially free. And the younger, the better, okay? So here's 3 non-negotiable lifestyle shifts that have to happen. And this is where a lot of people fail. They try to become financially free early, but they live exactly like everyone else is doing. And that is just not going to work. And here's 3 specific things that you need to be doing, okay? First, drive a 5-year-old or older car, not a brand new car. That $500 or in today's world, $750 or $1,000 a month car payment that you can avoid can become massive over time and taking that money and putting into your investment accounts. Hell, I still drive right now a 13, 14-year-old car with $160,000 or 160,000 miles on it. And I haven't had a car payment over 20 years. So I've been able to allocate car payment money into actual investments. Again, for the most part, nobody cares what I drive. And that trade-off that I made, it helped me buy my first couple of rental properties because I was able to use that money for those rather than a car. The second one is if you can house hack until you're 35. And I hate the term house hack, but if you can buy a property and rent out a room or buy a duplex or a fourplex and rent out the other places or get roommates, that way you could turn what for most people is their basic expense into something that generates some income for you. I know my kid, he had roommates in his house till he was in his late 20s. And was it glamorous? No. But it did help him get into other investments because his 2 roommates that he had in his house literally almost covered his entire house payment. So it made things really extra cash for him, made it so that he could actually do a lot of other things. And the third thing you have to do with all this is you have to automate it. The moment your paycheck gets into your account, money should be automatically moved into your investments before you ever see it. So pay yourself first. And if you have to think about the saving and investing every month, you've made it harder than it needs to be. And this is where people screw up and they're actually not going to do it. So set it up once and learn to live on what's left over. So then all this investing that you will forget about will happen automatically. Okay. And the last one here is you have to check the milestones that actually matter. Okay. Most people are tracking the wrong numbers. They obsess over their 401k balance, and that is only one piece of the picture. And to me, here are the milestones that I would try to pay attention to, okay? And these are the ones I talk to my kids about all the time is this. If by the age 32, you can be worth $100,000, then by the age of 35, ideally, you could be worth $250,000 and have your first rental property. Ideally, by the time you hit age 40, maybe you're going to be worth $600,000 and have 3 rental properties. And then by your mid-40s, be worth $1.2 million and own 5 rental properties. By the time you're 50, $2 million in net worth, which is creating passive income, ideally, that is greater than your expenses. And now you are financially free by the time you hit 50. Every quarter, you need to pay attention to these 3 numbers: your total invested assets, your rental equity, how much equity you have in these properties, and thirdly, your passive income that's coming on these. And when your passive income hits 80% of your expenses, you're getting super close. And when you finally get over and you hit about 120% of your expenses, you are now technically financially free. And I have a spreadsheet that literally goes back to the year 2000. I track these numbers forever and ever. And as you're watching these numbers climb over time, you're going to see so many other people who just keep complaining about their jobs and complaining about their careers. And this is what kept me going when sometimes the plan felt hard. So let's wrap this up. What I gave you is the exact blueprint that I wish I had when I was 30 years old. It's the same one that has let me walk away from mandatory work. If I work because I love working now, but I don't have to work. And now what you have are income targets, investment strategies, a real estate roadmap, and a lifestyle shift that makes it possible to know that what you can do now in order to win later. So most 30-year-olds, you're going to watch this and you're going to nod along and you're going to agree with a lot of what I had to say. And then you're going to go right back to doing what you've always done. And in 20 years, you're going to still be sitting there, having your alarm go off in the morning, sitting in traffic, asking for permission from your boss to go on a vacation. You're still showing up at work. Or some of you are going to do something completely different. And some of you will screenshot those milestones and you're going to go make sure your brokerage account is open and you're investing every time you get paid. And you're going to start researching rental markets around the country. You're going to reach out to me and ask me where you should do it. So the question is this: will you be explaining the plan to someone else in 20 years, or are you going to actually be living it? And if you want to see exactly how to find and finance your first rental property, reach out to me. We're going to talk about this in some other videos, and I'm going to break down the best way to buy real estate. You can do it with less than $25,000, and trust me, your future self is counting on what you do next, so let's make sure you start to do it.